Welcome to our deep dive, everyone. We're tackling computer games, multimedia, and software specialist interviews today. We've got real interview questions and insights from career guides to get you totally prepped.
It's like having your own personal interview coaches.
Exactly. We want to help you nail that dream job. But before we jump into the questions, I'd love to hear from you. What got you interested in this field in the first place?
You know, it's always been the passion for me. The tech side of it, especially with gaming and multimedia, it's all about creating those experiences, solving problems, but in really unique ways. That's what drew me to this whole world of helping people connect with the right software.
Okay, so speaking of connecting with the right software, our career guide actually points out something really important. The job outlook for software specialists, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
It is competitive though, right?
Oh, for sure. It is a competitive field.
But the industry itself is booming.
It is.
And that demand for software solutions, it's not going away.
Oh, definitely not. It's only going to keep growing.
So that's great news for all of you out there. But it also means you really got to be prepared to stand out.
Exactly.
And that means really understanding the role.
Yes. And being able to articulate your skills, that becomes key.
Absolutely. And the guide even goes into the work environment a bit. You're looking at bustling retail stores,
Right.
comfortable conditions, but
Yeah.
be ready for those potentially long hours.
You got it.
Weekends, holidays, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So flexibility is definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But let's get into that interview prep, shall we?
Let's do it.
I'm going to throw a question out there. What inspired you to pursue a career in computer games, multimedia, and software specialized selling? Now, this might seem pretty straightforward,
It does, yeah.
but it's your chance to really showcase that genuine passion that we were just talking about.
This is where you let your enthusiasm shine through. This is not the time for those generic responses,
Right. Like, I like computers.
Right, exactly. Share a specific story, something that demonstrates your genuine interest in this field. Maybe you spent hours and hours creating game mods, or maybe there's this one specific software tool that just revolutionized how you do things.
I like that.
The key is to connect that personal experience you have to the role and then demonstrate your passion.
You know, the guide actually shares this great little anecdote about an entry-level seller. They actually got the job because they passionately talked about a niche game genre.
Yeah.
And their knowledge of this very specific thing just blew the interviewer away.
Wow, that's awesome.
So don't hold back on those details. Those are the things that make you stand out.
Absolutely. Let that passion shine through.
Now, let's say the interviewer follows up with, can you give me an example of a time your passion for a game or software led you to help someone else? How would you approach that?
Ooh, good follow-up. They want to know, can you translate that passion into action? So think about a time maybe you helped a friend troubleshoot a tech issue, or you recommended a game and it became their new favorite, or maybe you even taught somebody how to use a new software program. It doesn't have to be this huge, grand gesture, just a genuine example of how your passion has helped someone else out.
And this is where RoleCatcher can come in handy, because it's not just about having the perfect answer, right?
Right.
It's about how you articulate it. And RoleCatcher uses AI to analyze your responses, and then it gives you feedback that's tailored to this specific role you're applying for. It's like having that personal interview coach we were talking about.
Yeah.
Helping you refine how you communicate, project that confidence.
Yeah, think about it. They are using AI to analyze interview responses from people who have been successful in these roles, so get those insights.
Exactly. Okay, so moving on to another question you might encounter. How do you stay up to date with the latest trends and developments in the computer games, multimedia, and software industry? What comes to mind when you hear that?
Oh, that's a good one. What they really want to see is that you are a continuous learner, that you're genuinely engaged with what's happening in this industry. So don't just say, I read articles, go deeper, mention specific resources.
Yeah, name drop.
Yeah, exactly. Are you a regular on, sites like Kotaku or PC Gamer? Do you subscribe to those industry newsletters? What about podcasts?
Oh, yeah.
Sharing those details shows you're engaged.
And don't be afraid to mention those personal projects, even if they don't seem directly related to the job.
Right, right.
Did you learn a new programming language just for fun?
Uh-huh.
Build a website. Experiment with some game modding in your free time.
Oh, yeah, definitely mention those things.
Those things show initiative. It shows you're committed to staying ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. And that ties back into RoleCatcher beautifully, because their AI can help you identify which skills are the most sought after for the role you're targeting, so you can tailor your answers to really hit the mark.
Now, what if they follow up with, Can you tell me about a recent development in the industry that particularly excited you and why?
Oh, I love this one. It's your chance to demonstrate your knowledge and your enthusiasm. So choose a recent development that you were genuinely excited about, whether it's a new game, a tech advancement, or maybe even a shift in what consumers are doing. Then explain why you're excited about it, what you think the implications are for the industry. It shows you're not just passively reading headlines, you're thinking about the impact.
Okay, let's dive into another common one. How do you approach building relationships with clients and customers in the computer games, multimedia, and software industry? This seems like a good spot to talk about those core skills the guide mentions. Persuasion, service orientation, active listening.
Yeah, definitely. But remember, it's not just about listing those skills. It's about how you actually use them in real-world situations.
So instead of just saying, I'm good at active listening, give me an example. How do you use it to understand a customer's needs and then recommend that perfect software solution?
Exactly. Or maybe you could share a time when your service orientation went above and beyond. Maybe you stayed late or researched a solution you weren't totally familiar with just to help a customer solve their problem.
Yeah, those concrete examples make you stand out.
Absolutely. Those are what they'll remember.
And this is another area where RoleCatcher can be really helpful because their AI can look at your practice answers and identify areas where maybe you're coming across as too transactional or lacking in genuine empathy. And it can suggest ways to rephrase things so you strike that perfect balance between being professional and being genuinely caring.
It's like having that feedback loop constantly helping you improve, tailoring your communication style to this specific industry.
Now, what if they dig a little deeper and ask, can you tell me about a time you had to build rapport with a customer who was initially hesitant or skeptical? What would you do?
Oh, that's a good one. That really tests your ability to build that trust. Connect with customers on a personal level. I'd focus on a time when you successfully overcame that customer's initial resistance. Talk about how you used active listening skills, how you empathized with their concerns, and how you ultimately found a solution that met their needs.
Maybe you had to explain some complex technical concept, really break it down for them.
Right, or maybe you went above and beyond to find a product that wasn't easy to come by. The key is you showed that you can turn skepticism into trust. And that's how you build that positive customer relationship.
I think that's a perfect place to pause. We've covered a lot of ground, really highlighting those soft skills interviewers are looking for. But we've got more to discuss. Stay tuned for part 2 of this deep dive.
Okay, so let's get back to those interview questions and dive into some of the tougher ones. We've talked about building those positive customer relationships right. But what happens when things get a little tricky? How about this? How do you handle customer complaints or concerns in the computer games, multimedia, and software industry?
Oh man, that's always a nerve-wracking one. Nobody likes dealing with unhappy customers. It's something I've definitely struggled with in the past.
Yeah, it can be tough.
But the guide really emphasizes that it's not about never having those difficult interactions,
Yeah.
right? It's more about how you approach them. Interviewers want to see how you handle pressure.
Exactly. They're looking for problem-solving skills. They want to see professionalism, even when things get a little heated.
So how would you suggest tackling that question?
Think about a time you faced a really challenging customer situation. How did you use active listening to really understand their concerns? What steps did you take to kind of de-escalate the situation and find a solution? Did you have to loop in a manager? And if so, how did you approach that? Those are the things they want to hear.
And this is where RoleCatcher's AI feedback can be really, really helpful because it can analyze your response and tell you if you're coming across as defensive or dismissive. And it can even suggest ways to rephrase your answer so you emphasize that commitment to customer satisfaction, even in those tough situations.
Sometimes it really is all about how you say it.
Exactly. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Here's a question that really lets you tap into your knowledge and enthusiasm. How do you approach selling new, cutting-edge computer games, multimedia, and software products to clients and customers? This is where that passion for the industry really shines through, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's not just about knowing those features and benefits. It's about conveying that excitement you have and translating it into value for the customer.
I like that.
Think about a time when you were super stoked about a new piece of tech that came out. What made it so cool? How did you share that with other people? Did you help them see how it could solve a problem for them or make their lives better?
And this is where that in-depth knowledge of the industry we were talking about really comes into play. mentioning those gaming websites, blogs, podcasts we talked about earlier that can really show your commitment to staying on top of things.
It shows you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. You're out there, you're learning, you're staying ahead of the curve. And this brings us to something really cool about RoleCatcher. They have this huge database of practice questions, and they're tailored specifically to this industry, so you can really get comfortable talking about these topics.
It's like having a cheat sheet, but instead of giving you the answers, it helps you find your own voice, your own way of expressing that expertise.
Okay, let's shift gears again. Let's get a little bit more technical. How do you prioritize and manage your sales pipeline in the computer games, multimedia, and software industry?
Sales pipelines.
Yeah,
That one can be pretty intimidating, especially if you're newer to sales.
it can be.
The guide talks a lot about the importance of organization, time management.
Yeah.
Things like CRM software can be a lifesaver,
Yes.
right? For
Oh.
keeping track of leads, following up with customers, staying on top of all your tasks. But I'm curious, from your experience, what are some other strategies that you found effective?
Well, CRM is definitely essential, but it's also about finding a system that works for you personally. Some people are visual, they like those Kanban boards. Others might be more into spreadsheets or project management software. The key is to find a method that helps you see your pipeline clearly, prioritize those leads, and track your progress.
And don't forget, RoleCatcher can actually help you figure out which CRM or project management tools are commonly used in this industry. So you can drop those names in your interview. Shows you're in the know.
Excellent point. Those details matter. Speaking of connections, let's talk about networking. How about this question? How do you approach networking and building relationships with other professionals in the computer games, multimedia, and software industry?
That's a good one. I feel like this is where attending industry events comes into play, right?
Industry events are definitely valuable, but it's about more than just showing up and grabbing business cards. It's about making real connections, being part of the community.
So how do you suggest showcasing that in an interview?
Well, think about the online communities and forums you're a part of. Do you jump into discussions? Share your insights? Offer help to others? Do you have any mentors in the field? These are all great examples that show your engagement and that you're committed to growing professionally.
Okay, and what if they say, give me a specific example of a time you built a valuable connection through networking? How would you approach that?
I would focus on a specific interaction that led to something real, something tangible. Maybe it was a collaboration on a project, a new job opportunity, or even just a really helpful piece of advice. Just highlight those steps you took to start the conversation, build that rapport, and then actually nurture the relationship over time.
And this is another area where RoleCatcher can provide those insights. Their AI can analyze how you're answering the question and tell you if you sound too focused on what you're getting out of it.
Right, right.
Instead of showing genuine interest in those relationships, it can help you refine your answer to really emphasize the mutually beneficial nature of networking.
It's not just about what you can get. It's about what you can give back, too.
Okay, here's one that's geared towards more experienced folks. But it's good to think about no matter where you are in your career. How do you approach managing a team of computer games, multimedia, and software specialized sellers? Even if you haven't officially managed a team, you've probably had to lead a project or mentor a colleague at some point, right?
Exactly. Leadership skills are important at every level. Think about a time when you had to motivate other people, delegate tasks, or give constructive feedback. What did you do to create a positive environment? How did you make sure everyone felt valued?
The guide talks about clear communication, setting expectations, giving regular feedback, all really important things. But I'm curious, what are some of the biggest challenges you've personally faced when managing a team, and how did you overcome them?
That's a really good question, and it's one interviewers often use to see how you solve problems and handle those tricky situations. Think about a time when you had a conflict within your team, or maybe someone wasn't performing as well as they could be. How did you approach that? What steps did you take to find a solution? Could you turn it into a learning experience for everybody?
And again, this is where RoleCatcher can be incredibly helpful, because their AI can analyze your response and tell you if you're coming across as too bossy or not empathetic enough. And it can suggest ways to reword things to really show off your collaborative leadership style.
You want to be seen as someone who can provide direction but also empower their team. Finding that balance is key.
Okay, let's wrap up this section with one final question that really requires you to think analytically. How do you approach sales forecasting and budgeting in the computer games, multimedia, and software industry? Now, this one might sound a little intimidating,
It can be, yeah.
but remember, it's all about showing that you can think strategically and use data to make smart decisions.
Exactly. They want to know that you understand the bigger picture of the business. Think about a time when you had to analyze sales data, spot those trends, and then make predictions based on what you saw. What tools did you use? How did you explain your findings to everyone involved? Were you able to adapt to changes in the market?
And here's where mentioning those industry standard tools that RoleCatcher can help you identify can really boost your answer.
It shows you're not just talking about ideas, you know what you're doing in a practical sense.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, tackling some of the toughest questions you might get asked in an interview. Remember, the key is to prepare, practice, and really showcase your passion, your knowledge, and your skills with confidence. And of course, don't forget about RoleCatcher. Their AI can provide those incredible insights and feedback that can make all the difference. But let's take a breather and move on to our final section, where we'll recap those key takeaways and leave you with some final food for thought. All right, so we've walked through a ton of those potential interview questions, really getting into the nitty-gritty of what those hiring managers are looking for. But before we wrap up this deep dive, let's zoom out for a sec and revisit those key takeaways from the career guide.
Absolutely. If there's one thing you remember from all of this, it should be that passion, continuous learning, and that genuine desire to help customers. Those are absolutely essential for success in this role. Those are the things that will make you shine in your interviews. Ultimately, that's what's going to set you apart from everyone else.
I love that, because at the end of the day, it's not just about memorizing answers, right? It's about showing your genuine enthusiasm. Let them know you're truly invested in helping people find the right solutions. And this industry, it's always changing. So that commitment to continuous learning, that's so key.
It really is, and that's where RoleCatcher comes in. Their AI can help you stay ahead of the curve, by identifying the skills and knowledge that are hot right now. Plus, they've got those practice questions and personalized feedback that can help you refine how you communicate and really tailor your answers to this specific industry.
It's like having a secret weapon.
Exactly.
So as you continue prepping for your interviews, definitely check out RoleCatcher, explore those career guides, and just keep practicing those questions.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with something to think about. What kind of software are you most excited to help customers discover? How would you describe it in a way that would get them excited too?
That's such a great question to think about. It gets to the heart of what makes this role so rewarding. Connecting people with tech that can make their lives better, maybe even make a real difference. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of computer games, multimedia, and software sales. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.